And there's the Whedon-esque let's cut the important stuff with jokey jokes that the MCU is so known for now. Shame, I really wanted to like the hippo, but the show refused to take her at all seriously. I'm Gay Fesh, and today we'll be talking Moon Knight, Episode 5, Asylum. But before we get started, make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. As always, spoilers for this episode. I had high hopes for the hippo goddess to wear it, but they were immediately dashed when she's treated as a complete joke of a character who has to pull out note cards to tell her what her job is. She's piloting a barge sailing across the dunes of the Egyptian afterlife, and she's weighing their hearts against the feather, but it still won't balance because Mark and Steven aren't in harmony. They convince her to take them to the gates of Osiris, where they'll be able to return to their body to put a stop to Harrow and Amit, who have already begun casting souls to the afterlife before their time of judgment is at hand. I have a feeling they're going to need some outside help still, because according to Taweret, their body is properly dead. I'm betting Layla will probably need to track down the Khonshu statue and break it so that he can resurrect them. Remember that episode of WandaVision where Agatha took her through a series of rooms to relive all the trauma of her life? Yeah, so Moon Knight went ahead and did that episode again. Not that I'm complaining, I loved that episode, and this one had a wonderful back and forth as Steven and Mark go through different rooms in the asylum, each of which represent a different memory. Steven learns that Mark had a brother who died in a flooded cave. His mom blamed him for it even though he was like 10 when it happened, and Steven was created as an alter to protect him and dissociate when his mom would abuse him. Mark had been able to keep Steven at bay most of his life once he moved away from home, but after his mom died, Steven was brought back out, in denial that she was dead, and imagined he had daily phone calls with her. I kept waiting for there to be a moment where we learn that Mark has another alter, but we get to the end without that happening. Maybe they're saving that reveal for the finale. If they don't, then we've got a big old plot hole from episode 3 still to resolve. There is one possibility that I'm considering here. Mark keeps jumping back to the office where Arthur Harrow appears as a psychologist, convincing him that the whole thing is a psychotic break. I don't believe this is actually the same Harrow from the real world, just something manifesting as that adversary in Mark's mind. Since Harrow was a previous avatar of Khonshu, it's possible that a sliver of him was carried over into Mark's mind to create a new persona, and that's what we're seeing here. Right as they're approaching the gates, a bunch of sand zombies board to try to drag them down to the sands. Mark does the initial combat, but Steven realizes that if Mark knows how to fight, then so does he, so he comes in for the assist and does a really good job of fighting them, until he's knocked overboard and the sand freezes him in place. As he goes the way of Bing Bong, the scales finally balance, and Mark finds himself in the field of reeds, the good afterlife. Kind of a big problem since he was trying not to stay dead. So what did you think of this episode? Leave a comment down below.
Did you catch Taweret saying that there are multiple human afterlives? She name drops the Wakandan ancestral planes, which means it's real, not just a hallucination brought on by the heart-shaped herb.
Be sure to like, subscribe, ring the bell, and share the video with your friends. Subscribe to my Patreon to get shouted out in future videos. Check out my Bandcamp for banging tunes, including all the tracks you heard in this video. Follow me on Twitter @GayestFesh, and don't forget to check out my podcast, The Rest of Both Worlds, where I go through Star Trek The Next Generation with a friend who's never seen it. Thank you to all my patrons, with a special shout out to Piftle Cakes and Renee Vorbeck. Your support is greatly appreciated. See you all in the next video.